The night everything changed for me in Seattle didn't begin with thunder or drama, it began with a lie. A soft, subtle lie that hid inside a friend's laughter, inside a seemingly harmless setup, inside a moment I didn't realize would test my heart more deeply than anything before. I still remember how my breath caught when I walked into that quiet little cafe on the corner of Pine Street, the kind with dim lights and wooden tables that smelled faintly of cinnamon. I thought I was meeting someone for an ordinary date. I thought life was predictable. I thought I was prepared. I was wrong. Because the girl waiting for me, Ava, was not standing. She was sitting in a wheelchair, hands resting gently on her lap, eyes bright but guarded, as if she'd been hurt 1,000 times before. And I froze. Not because she was paralyzed, but because I felt tricked, ambushed, and unprepared for what felt like a test of my own character. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, empathy, and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow and bring more meaningful stories to you. I wish I could say I handled the moment gracefully, that I smiled and walked toward her without hesitation, but the truth is, I stood there long enough for her to notice. Her eyes shifted downward, almost apologetically, and in that instant I felt like the worst version of myself, shallow, unsure, unsteady. My friend Mark had told me she was different, but he never explained what that meant. He thought I'd bail out if he told me the whole truth. And maybe I would've. That's the part that still haunts me. As I finally moved toward her, Ava lifted her gaze and gave a small, knowing smile. She didn't apologize for who she was. She didn't try to explain or soften the moment. She simply said, with a steady voice and a strength that felt older than her 24 years, that she hoped I hadn't been misled. I sat down across from her, hands trembling slightly, my mind racing as I tried to reconcile my expectations with the reality in front of me. She was stunning, long auburn hair, gentle brown eyes, a soft navy sweater that contrasted beautifully with her pale skin. But beneath her calm exterior, I sensed a deeper story, one filled with battles fought quietly and alone. As the evening unfolded, Ava spoke about her life with a surprising openness. She told me she had been paralyzed from the waist down since a car accident 2 years earlier, an accident that took not only her ability to walk but also people she had once called friends. Some drifted away slowly, unsure of what to say or how to treat her. Others vanished instantly, unable to cope with her new reality. She confessed that she rarely dated anymore because most people treated her like a charity case, or worse, as if she were broken. And then she said something that has stayed with me ever since, I'm not looking for pity, just honesty. Her words hit me harder than I expected. They stripped me of every excuse, every hesitation, every attempt to hide behind politeness. They forced me to confront my own discomfort. I wasn't a bad person, but I was human, flawed, imperfect, and unprepared. And for the first time in a long while, I found myself wanting to understand someone beyond surface-level impressions. Over the next few weeks, Ava and I met again and again. Sometimes at the cafe, sometimes at a park overlooking Lake Washington, sometimes in her small but cozy apartment where sunlight streamed through wide windows and her watercolor paintings decorated the walls. She painted landscapes and quiet places she dreamed of visiting someday, fields in Montana, cliffs in Maine, deserts in Arizona. Her art was full of movement, even though her legs were still. She had a soul that refused to be trapped. The more time I spent with her, the more I realized how much courage she carried. Simple things, getting onto a bus, entering certain buildings, navigating crowds, were struggles I had never noticed in my own life. Watching her face these challenges made me confront the privilege of my ignorance. She never complained. She never asked for help unless absolutely necessary. And even then, she would apologize, as if her existence were somehow an inconvenience. Each time she did, something inside me tightened. But as the bond between us grew, so did my guilt. I still hadn't told her how I felt about the way our first date had been arranged. I hadn't told her I almost left that night. I carried that shame like a stone in my chest. And though I admired her resilience, I was terrified she'd see the part of me I wasn't proud of. One crisp Saturday morning, we visited a quiet pier near Elliott Bay. The water shimmered under the soft sunlight, and a gentle breeze brushed against her hair. Ava sat beside me in silence, her hands resting lightly on the armrests of her wheelchair. I sensed she knew something was weighing on me. She had a way of seeing through the layers I tried to hide behind. When she finally asked why I looked distracted, her voice was soft, without judgment. So I told her everything. I told her I felt deceived by Mark. I told her I hesitated that first night. I told her I didn't know how to handle the situation because I had never met someone like her before. As I spoke, I watched her expression shift from curiosity to pain, and then to something more complex, acceptance, maybe even understanding. When I finished, she closed her eyes for a moment, letting my confession settle. I expected anger. I expected disappointment. Instead, she told me she appreciated my honesty. She said people often pretended to be okay with everything just to appear virtuous, but their actions eventually gave them away. She preferred the truth, even if it wasn't pretty. At least now, she said, I know you're here because you want to be, not because you feel trapped by guilt or expectations. Her grace was disarming. It made me want to be a better man. Not for her, but because she deserved someone who didn't flinch when life got complicated. And for the first time, I felt something deeper than admiration. I felt protective of her. Not because she was fragile, but because she carried the weight of the world alone far too often. Weeks turned into months. I learned how to navigate sidewalks with her, how to lift her chair into my car without making her feel helpless, how to stand beside her without overshadowing her independence. We laughed more than I expected. We argued sometimes too, mostly because I struggled with my desire to help and her desire not to be helped unless absolutely necessary. She taught me that love wasn't about fixing someone. It was about standing with them in the moments when the world tried to push them down. But our biggest test came unexpectedly. One evening, as we were leaving a downtown restaurant, a group of young men made a crude comment about her chair. I felt my blood boil instantly. Before I could react, Ava touched my arm gently and asked me not to engage. But rage blinded me. I confronted them, voice shaking with anger, and things escalated quickly. One of them shoved me. Another laughed. I swung back impulsively, fueled by a need to defend her. It was messy, reckless, and stupid. Ava cried that night, not because of what they said, but because I put myself in danger for her. She hated being the reason violence erupted. She hated feeling like a burden. Seeing her break down shattered me. I held her as she sobbed, promising her that she wasn't the cause of my fight. My anger had been directed at cruelty, not her existence. But even my assurance didn't erase the fear she carried. For days afterward, she withdrew emotionally, afraid that loving her meant inviting chaos into my life. I spent those days trying to reassure her that she wasn't less deserving of love just because she navigated the world differently. It took time, patience, and countless moments of quiet tenderness before she finally let me back in. The turning point came during a quiet walk, walk for me, roll for her, along a forest trail near North Bend. The sunlight filtered through towering pines, casting golden streaks across her hair. She looked at me with a softness I hadn't seen in weeks. She told me she had spent too long believing she had to apologize for the way life turned out for her. But with me, she finally felt seen, truly seen, not as a girl in a wheelchair, but as a woman with dreams, fears, and hopes.